In this video, you're going to learn how to create these kinds of powerful graphics, carousels, GIFs, and videos for social media, even if you're a complete beginner in this world. And the reason I'm doing this is because a few years ago, I created a video here on YouTube about this exact topic, and it got a lot of traction. It's actually still getting traction to this day, but it's actually laughable to think how bad the design was that I was creating in that particular video. And I think what makes it worse is that I vividly remember thinking this was the best thing I had ever created. I was so proud. And yeah, you know what? That kind of makes me happy because I think my design skills have improved a little in the last 6 years. And I'm just glad that I released these videos, even though, yeah, it was terrible. But, you know, people got value out of it, and that's all that matters. Anyways, I thought it was time for us to redo this particular topic so that we can take a look at how Canva's changed and hopefully how my design skills have changed as well. And so that I can show you how you can create absolute magic with Canva, even if you are a complete beginner in this world. And I'm also going to be providing you with some further resources as well if you want to keep upskilling past the point of this video, of course. But we're going to get started. We're going to jump into Canva and start creating together. But before we do that, I just wanted to mention that at this point, Canva hasn't actually rolled everyone out into the new interface. So if there are a few things on your screen that look a little bit different to my screen, the features that we're going to be covering are largely the same. It's more just, it might look slightly different, but it's not going to have different functionality. So not to worry if you haven't been transitioned into the new interface yet. If you have, great. If not, that's okay. We'll figure it out together. All right, let's jump in. So we're going to go ahead and get started by logging into our account or signing up for an account. I am a Canva Pro user, so it might look slightly different. There might be some differences that you notice as we go along, and we can talk about them as we go. But once you're on the new interface, which not all of you might be yet, but you will effectively have all your recent designs here and also in the left-hand side. Obviously, these are my student designs, mostly not really my own designs, but that's just because I've been given permission to view them. So it could be a mix of client designs, you know, anyone that's given you access to their Canva designs, and then your own as well. So I'm not going to get too much into the dashboard here because I'm going to be providing you with a resource for this and how you can learn more about that. For now, let's just start creating. So we're just going to go ahead and create an Instagram post. And we could go specifically by industry. So this could be, you know, real estate Instagram post, or finance, or food, or something like that. You could go by those particular keywords, or at this stage, you know, we're just looking for Instagram post. And then I'm just going to filter this down. So in this case, I only want portrait ones because it gives me a little bit more real estate. And then I could also go by style. So let's say we want this to be a nice minimalistic sort of post. I could also go through and see, do I want ones that are animated? Do I want them to have video? And then it's got particular topics and subjects I can go by as well. But of course, you can also put that in the search results. So you don't necessarily need to utilize just the filters they have. If you've got a particular kind of post you want to create and you want to be either starting from scratch, which will give you the option to create a blank design, or create from a pre-designed creation. So you can filter down by the Canva filters, or you can create your own. So this stage, basically, let's just keep it really simple. We're just going to select a design and just add our own flair to it. But the reason I want to select something that's a little bit more, not complicated, but that has a couple of elements, is because I want to show you how you can utilize a few cool features within Canva. So we're going to just select this template here, and now we're in the editor. So this is where we can swap out our photos, we can change the text, we can change our fonts, we can change our colors, we can upload our own sort of images and things like that. So that's what I will start with. I'm going to just go ahead and upload an image of myself that I have prepared. So we can start by sort of slowly customizing this to our needs. And then I can either just click this and it's going to add it to my design, or I can click and drag into the spot where I want to have this particular image. And then if it doesn't quite fit, obviously like this, I can double click into my image and then make it larger, and then move this around to exactly sort of where I want it. So I think that looks good like that. I would maybe actually flip this because of where the laptop is. I might want to be able to see the laptop and not have it be covered by this box here. So these are a few different options that are in a floating bar. If you are not on the new interface, it won't be floating. It'll just be sort of static up here. On the new interface, this is now floating. So what it means is you won't see anything there until you actually click on something, and then it's going to give you some options for that particular element. So for example, this is an image, and now I have the option to edit it. I can remove the background, I can change shapes and things like that. Whereas if I click on the background, obviously I have different options here. I've got the option to change the background color. With my text, I've got the option to change the text. So it's a little bit different to the way that it was in the previous interface, but effectively it's pretty intuitive in terms of the editor. I find that even as a complete beginner, if you're kind of stuck, once you click on something, it's going to sort of guide you through and be like, did you mean to do this? Did you want to do this? And obviously you've selected this template, but you're not stuck with it because that would be boring. So at any point you can go into the design section here, and you've got all these other beautiful templates that you can search through based on keywords, or you can just kind of browse through, and you can either add them to a new page. So anytime you click this little plus, it's going to add a new page to your design document, and you can say, all right, I like this one, and it's got a few different pages within it, but let's say I only like this first page. I'm going to go back, I'm going to add a new page, and then I'm going to keep adding some designs here that I really like. And that way I can like slowly start to tweak them and collect some ideas and designs. So that works really well. But the other thing that we can do is, let's say, you know, I like this particular font, but I don't really want to bother with the rest of it. So one really cool thing you can do within Canva is you can take this template and click on the three dots and go apply style to page, or apply text only, apply colors only, apply elements. So let's say I just really like the text on this particular page. I can just say, all right, take that text and add it to my design. And now it's done that with the design that I had. I don't think that particularly works for this design, but just so you know that that is always possible. And you can even do this with external images. So for example, if I go on over to Pinterest, I can go and I can search for, let's say I recently searched for a fun color palette. So that works really well. Let's say I just take this color palette here, and let's say I just really like these colors. I can screenshot this. I can bring this into my Canva design. It's going to add it to my uploads folder, and I can add it in here. And then I can right click on this and say apply colors to page. So now it's going to take the colors from this image and make my beautiful design the colors that I've just selected there. So that's really cool. And again, things that people don't utilize enough within Canva, honestly. So I think you can do a lot of really cool things. And of course, with this kind of design, I would probably move things around just so that it suits my image. But I think, you know, just as a very quick sort of design, that looks pretty cool. So I'm just gonna go ahead and leave that for now. Okay, so now next, let's talk carousels. So you've got a few different options within Canva. You can either create them as standalone individual pages like we've just done with our single image design, or you can create a carousel that is a long, cohesive image or flow or design like you might have seen on Instagram, where you're sort of scrolling through the posts and they all have this nice cohesive design, or they've got overlapping elements and things like that. So a lot of that is done within, you know, the likes of Photoshop and Illustrator that are more advanced tools, but you can do it within Canva. It is a bit more of an advanced move, but I think you can handle it. So I reckon let's give that a go. First, let's have a look at the kind of more traditional designs within carousels, so I can show you the sort of easier way of doing it, and then I'll show you a slightly more complex way of doing it. Okay, so jumping back into our dashboard here, instead of Instagram posts, let's just say carousel. We're just gonna look for carousels. That is going to give us multi-page designs. So it's going to only really show us designs that have a few different pages within them. So you'll see this says it's one of 6. And if I just hover over it, it's gonna show me the other 6 designs that are in this particular document. So I'm not just gonna get single images, I'm gonna get these beautiful carousels. And you'll start to notice these little crowns in the bottom right hand corner, which means this is a pro design. If it doesn't have this crown, it means it's free for you to use, even if you're a Canva free user. So you might just need to tweak a little bit of stuff. If you're a Canva free user, you can still utilize some elements, but there might be some things that are a little bit off limits. For now, we're just gonna go ahead and select this kind of nice portrait image so I can just show you what these look like on the inside and why we might want to actually do this nice long cohesive carousel instead of having them as individual pages. So it does depend. It's a use case scenario. So for example, for this one, it's just got kind of main cover image, and then the rest of these are just one plain color. So for this type of carousel, you really wouldn't need to do any more than just designing the individual pages. So I think that's totally fine. And I would just leave it as that and just design it to be, you know, my fonts, my colors, and my content, obviously. But if you have something that requires that nice bit of cohesiveness, what we can do is we can create a design from scratch. So we would go over to create a design and custom size. Now the height is going to be 1350 pixels if this is going on Instagram, and if it's a portrait graphic, not a square graphic. If it was a square graphic, it would be 1080p. If that's not meaning much to you at this stage, that's totally fine. You can always look up ideal sizes of posts on all the different platforms. So there's plenty of resources out there for this, so you don't feel like you have to always know the numbers. But in terms of your width, it really depends on how many posts, individual posts, are going to be in your carousel. So you can have up to 10 on Instagram, and let's say for this one we might do 5. So the width of an Instagram post is 1080 pixels. So that means if you want to do 5 of them, it's 1080 times 5, which is 5,400. So that's how long it's going to be. And then we're going to break that up into individual images that are going to be 1080 each. So if that's not making sense, that's okay. It will make sense in just a second. Like I said, this is a bit of more of an advanced move, but I really love how these designs turn out. Now, in terms of designs it's going to be showing us template-wise, it's not going to be relevant because Canva does not tailor to this. So we're going to have to design it from scratch, and that's totally fine. What we're going to do now is we're going to head on over to File, and we're going to go to Settings and add Guides. So then we can go to Custom, and we're going to say we want 5 columns. And we don't want them to have any gaps. So now we have these beautiful guides in place so we can see, okay, this is going to be our first image in our carousel, second, third, fourth, and so on and so forth. So that allows us to do this design. Obviously, it's still going to export as one large image, and we're going to have to chop it up, and I have a tool for that, so not to worry. Then, of course, you can design from scratch, but you can actually take whatever designs you have from these templates that are within Canva and just customize them slightly, so you can bring them in and just copy and paste them in. So that's exactly what we're going to do. I'm just going to go ahead and basically highlight everything, and then Command C if you're on a Mac, or Control C if you're on a PC. And we're going to go over here, and now we're going to Control V or Command V depending on if you're on a Mac or PC. It's automatically going to paste it into our first sort of slot here. Now the one downside of doing it this way is that Canva doesn't know when you're in the middle of one of these posts like it does when it's an individual design. So you'll see these pink lines sort of coming up to tell me that that's the middle of my carousel, so that I can align everything with the middle. That's really nice. But in terms of my vertical middle, it doesn't know that I've done what I've just done. So it doesn't know how to tell me that I'm in the center. So a little bit of a hack around this, and obviously this is not accessible at the moment. It's really, really light. So I'm just going to change this color so that we can see it a little bit better. So a little bit of a hack around this, and in terms of wanting to align it, you can either go to Elements and find a rectangle here, or you can just click R and hit R on your keyboard. It's going to bring in a bit of a rectangle for you. So what this is going to allow you to do is basically bring in a rectangle for each of these different images. So that will allow you to use this as a guide, and it's going to allow it to you to snap that into place. So we can now head on over to Position, And then this rectangle, we just want to make sure it goes all the way to the back so that the text that's going to be on top of it is going to be allowed to be on top. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to lock this into place. On over here, I'm going to right click and lock this into place. So that way we can basically highlight everything that's over here. And now when I move it around, you'll see that kind of vertical pink line appear, which means it's now allowing me to lock it into place both vertically and horizontally so I can make sure it's nice and aligned. So it is a bit of an extra step. I know it can feel really complicated, and I do this basically for each of the different kind of graphics to make sure that each of them is perfectly in the center. And yes, I know that is a lot of work for a lot of people, but it does mean that you are able to do really cool things. Like, for example, if this was just a solid color, not really a huge purpose in doing it, but you can jump in here and instead of doing a solid color, you can add a gradient, and that it will allow you to do a gradient across the whole carousel. So when someone's swiping through, it'll change from this beautiful purple all the way through to this pink. And of course you can change these colors to be whatever you need them to be. So we can go, you know, really kind of much more impactful. We can add colors, so it doesn't just have to be 2 colors. We can add a 3rd color here if we want to. So that's a really beautiful thing about this. You can also add an image in the background. So I could head on over to elements, and I think I searched for, yes, I searched for grainy, colorful backgrounds, you know, nothing super spectacular, but this is where I can head on over to photos. And these are pro images that I can utilize. There are some free images that I can use as well, or you can utilize free image websites as well. So I'm going to show you where I would go to do that. But in this case, let's say I just want to use this free image. I can either stretch this out all the way to the end, or I can just right click and say replace background, and that's going to replace the whole background of the entire carousel. So once again, it gives me this nice, beautiful flow across the whole carousel. And of course, this is now a bit of a weird color, so I would probably just highlight this, and we're just going to go and change that to black. So I would make sure that obviously it's all very accessible. There's a good amount of contrast between the elements on the page. And then I would just continue doing the same thing for all of the rest of the carousel elements on this design, and just bringing them in by doing Command C and Command V and bringing that across. Obviously, I don't have my rectangle over here. I've deleted it, so I don't know exactly where the center is. I would want to make sure I'm doing that every time. A little bit of a workaround as well is if I bring in a rectangle, I don't need it to necessarily be across the whole area. I can actually just have it sort of up here, which will allow me to select everything that's down here. And I can still use it to sort of align my graphic. So that's a bit of a workaround, and I would basically do that for everything across. Now, one other neat thing is if you're bringing these kind of carousel elements across, they will obviously have a little bit of dummy text, and that you will have to kind of work on your own, but they will have things like this where it says really great site, which obviously you would want to customize to be your own. Within Canva, you can do it same as you can within a Word document, where you go Command F if you're on a Mac or Control F if you're on a PC. And then in this case, you know, it says really great site. I would want to make sure I'm replacing that with Maggie.Stara, and that's going to replace all. And then obviously if I had already done the rest of my images here, it would have replaced all of them. So that's really great. I'm just going to go through and put in basically the rest of our images over here, and then we're going to figure out how to chop this up together. Okay, so that's pretty much it. The last thing I would do is just make sure that I'm changing these Y icons to black. So I can go ahead and do that. And then down here, it'll say, do you want to change everything that's white to black? And I'd say, yes, I do, which is automatically going to do it for me over there as well. So that's brilliant, but obviously we need to chop this up. So now I would go and share this, and download this as a PNG, and we're gonna go ahead and download that. And then it's time to head on over to a tool called pinetools.com/split-image. And then we can go ahead and we'll choose our untitled design because I was too lazy to actually label it anything. And we're gonna head on over and make it 5 blocks. And then the format is the same as input. We wanna make sure it's splitting the image horizontally, which logically doesn't make as much sense, but that's how it works. And then you either have a zip file or you can download each of the images one at a time. So it will effectively just give you an option to have these beautiful images that you can then post individually on a platform like Instagram or anywhere else. Within a platform like LinkedIn, you would have to export as a PDF, not a PNG, in order to get a carousel. But it does mean that by doing it this way, you're able to have this beautiful gradient or, have overlapping images that are on the edges. So when people are scrolling through, it gives you that nice cohesive look. So that's a little bit about how to create carousels. And now let's talk about how you can add some movement to your images within Canva by adding some slight animations or GIFs. So we're gonna go ahead and work off of our original design here because I think we could possibly animate this second design here by heading on over to elements, and we're gonna look for maybe a video in the style of a beach or a pool or something along the same lines as what this has. So I'm gonna bring in this video over here and we can just right click on this. Hang on a second, we're gonna bring it over here, right click on that and go replace background. And then I can just click on it again and maybe move this around so that it suits my purposes. And that looks really nice. I think that works pretty well with the original design. So if you are a Canva free user and you don't have access to a lot of these pro videos, I would recommend heading on over to Carousels.com, where you can find free photos and free videos. So any photos, they got thousands and thousands and hundreds of thousands of beautiful photos. So let's look at beach again. So you could take any of these photos and import them into your Canva designs for free, and same with videos. So we've got 24,000 videos that are free for you to use by their license. Obviously always check their license to make sure it hasn't changed, but as of the time of recording this, it's totally free for you to use in your designs, and you could just download it from here and then import it straight into Canva and use it for your design. Now something like this would work really well for a Facebook video or maybe even LinkedIn, but on Instagram it would automatically get converted into a reel. So we want to make sure that if we're designing for Instagram, we would design in the specific vertical dimensions that we're going to talk about in just a sec. But I think in terms of animating and bringing it a bit of life, I think that works really well. So that's the easiest way to just kind of get something a bit more interesting out of your designs. Otherwise, you can head on over to the graphics tab and we could look for something like a squiggle, for example. So these are all sort of flat images. So they're not exactly the kinds of things that would bring it to life, but we can use this filter tab and only look at animated elements. Now, some of these will allow you to change the colors to your brand colors, but not all of them. So it's nice to kind of look around for these kind of animated elements that will allow you to change the color. So if you see a color up here, it means you can change it to your brand color. If you don't see anything up there, it means it's not possible. So if I'm looking at animated squiggles once again, and I'm selecting, let's select another one, for example, this one. Yep, that one allows me to change it, but I think this one looks a little bit lower quality. Let's see this one. Yeah, so this one, for example, you don't see a color up here, which means you can't change the colors on this one. You just get what you're given kind of thing. So it's good to look around for ones that you can change the colors on, and that way you can make things nice and branded. Now I'm gonna just go ahead and copy and paste this across and twist this so that I have it in both corners here. And that looks pretty good. Now I would probably want to make sure that this kind of graphic is also my brand colors, which it definitely is not at the moment. So I might bring that in line with my brand colors. And I think that that looks pretty good. So that again is something that would work really well for LinkedIn, for Facebook. Again, on Instagram, it would get converted into a reel. So we want to make sure we would just take it and design it in those beautiful vertical dimensions. But that's just a nice and easy way for you to utilize these kind of options within Canva, even if you're a free user. And if you'd like to learn more about how to utilize Canva's powerful features to create more of this epic kind of content for social media, then make sure to check out my dedicated online course, which is my social media content creation in Canva from beginner to advanced course. That is a mouthful, but it is an amazing course that has everything from creating powerful graphics, Instagram stories, videos, turning yourself into a GIF, even creating business cards and websites, basically anything I could possibly think of that I thought business owners and social media marketers and virtual assistants could ever possibly want to create within Canva is within this course. And it is my baby. I absolutely love this course and I've made it super affordable, but I'm actually giving you an extra 20% off using the link in the description below this video so that hopefully you can access it and keep learning well past this particular tutorial. So I hope to see you on the inside of that particular course, but now let's jump back in and keep creating. So let's now talk about how to create videos for social media. So let's say we have this particular design here and we want to make it applicable to Instagram. There are a couple things I would probably do. One would be making sure that any audio is muted here. So I would just remove that because I'm probably adding a music track from within Instagram or a voiceover or something like that. And I might want to trim the video, so I could trim that so that it's less than 12 seconds. I could just do that manually here, or I can leave it at 12 seconds. That's totally fine as well. But the main thing I want to look at is the dimensions. So if you're a Canva Pro user, you can automatically resize this. So you can just go to resize, and then we can just go and look at reel. It'll tell you that an Instagram reel is 1080 by 1920. And then let's say I only want to be resizing the second page because I don't want to be making reels out of this other ones. So it'll just resize page 2 into an Instagram reel. Now that is a pro feature. If you are a Canva free user, you would essentially just copy and paste across to a new design, just like we did with the carousels. You'd basically highlight everything on this page and just paste it into a new document. So it's just a little bit of an easy thing. Basically Canva Pro, most of the Canva Pro features just make it much faster for you to do what you need to do. But you could easily just copy and paste across. In this case, I would probably remove all these small elements because I don't think these really work for reels, and I would just leave it as that. So that's an easy way to just create a really quick Instagram reel. And then I would go to share, download, and then make sure I'm downloading this as an MP4 at 1080p, so that makes it nice high quality, and then I could just bring this straight into Instagram. So that's the first thing. The second thing is to basically start from scratch. So we're just going to go ahead and look for an Instagram reel and find it within Canva templates. So it's not looking for my templates. That's important. And of course, we could either start from a blank design or we can start from any of these beautiful templates. Now I'm actually going to look for a tweet style reel because I quite like these in terms of, I think, how they work on Instagram. So I'm just going to go ahead and select this one here. And then we would just replace the video in the background with either a video we shot or a video from Carousels or a video from within Canva, of course, if you're a Canva Pro user. But in this case, I'm going to be bringing in my own video because I do think that it's really nice, even if you're not confident speaking to camera, if you can utilize some of your own footage. So I'm just going to go ahead and bring in this little video of me just sitting in the sun by a pool. And I would probably actually just make this a little bit more transparent and make sure the back there is black. 1 second, we're gonna break that black, and then yeah, just bring the transparency down a little bit so that I'm just in the background really slightly, but you can still see me, but I'm not the main focus of this particular reel. So it's got music attached to it here. And of course you can add music from within Canva just like you can with anything else. So I could look for something like, you know, this is quite motivational. So let's have a look at motivational. And then we can go on over to audio and you could find music tracks that are motivational that you can utilize for social media. Again, a lot of them will be Canva Pro features and there are free websites that you can find audio from. but it's so easy to just add your audio from directly within an app like Instagram or TikTok. So you don't necessarily need the audio part of this. So I would maybe actually delete this and just have the video itself and just see how it looks. I would obviously update this to have my own, profile photo, which I don't have it right here, but let's just utilize this one here. I'm gonna zoom in and I'm just gonna click into it. And let's say this is my profile photo. And then of course I would update this with my own details and everything else and whatever quote I was using as well. But that's such a nice and easy way to basically make, a 9-second reel. But it's just something that looks really nice. And then it's up to you whether you like this sort of dim effect or if you want it to be fully transparent. That's totally up to you. And if you'd like to keep learning about Canva past this video, make sure to check out my dedicated playlist up here, or of course my Canva course that more than 40,000 of my students have gone through and created amazing designs for their own businesses, for their clients, and everyone in between. So I really, really hope that you'll enjoy the course, and make sure to grab your special discount code in the description below. Thank you for being here, and I'll catch you in the next video.